Hey you guys, welcome back to KayThePA. My name's Kay, and this week we're going to talk about how to create a winning resume that will get you the hospital job. Okay, so as we discussed in our previous video, make sure you check that one out. We are leaving ratchetness in 2018. Okay, it's 2019 now, and we're gonna make sure our resumes are on point, our interview skills are on point, and we are gonna get callbacks. Okay, we're getting the job this year. All right, so make sure that you stay tuned if you want to learn some tips on how to improve your resume and get that hospital job. So when it comes to resumes, you gotta remember that people don't know who you are. So all they know about you is what's on a piece of paper. Okay, so if your resume is looking like you are in high school, if it's just like sloppy and they gotta search for every little thing, it just seems like you're not an organized person and you just are not professional. You're not the ideal candidate. So you want to make sure that your resume is nice and clean. Okay, so neat and clean, I should say. You want to make sure that when people read your resume, they can just look and they'll know, okay, she worked here in 2006, she worked here in 2007, she did this. And you want everything to be concise but legible. So we're going to go over a few tips on how to improve your resume. Alright guys, so my very first tip is to do not decorate your resume. Okay, this is not art class, you are not Picasso, and professional is boring, like I always say. Make sure that you're not putting pictures on there, you're not making your words different colors. So you don't want one area to be red and then another area to be blue and another black. You just want to make it one color, make it boring. I would just go with black. Black is classic and you can't go wrong with black. Please don't make it red, okay? Don't make it red ink. Just go with black and just don't decorate it. Don't get fancy. Next piece of advice is to use a template. Okay, so Microsoft Word has really good templates, and you know that it's going to be professional if you use one of those. Okay, so just use one of those. It adds that professional touch to it, and it really separates you from like a high school looking resume from a professional resume. Okay, so make sure you use a template. It makes your life so much easier. It's basically like a guideline to how you should structure your resume. So it's going to tell you where to put your name, and it's going to have the correct font, so just make sure you use a template to add that professional touch to it. Alright guys, so my next tip is no paragraphs. Okay, I think automatically when someone sees a resume with like paragraphs upon paragraphs, they're already overwhelmed. They already do not want to read your resume, and they'll probably put it at the bottom of the pile. Who knows? But you want your resume to be concise. You want it to get to the point. You want the interviewer to look over it and be like, okay, at this job she did this, this, and this. That's why you should use bullet points instead, because it conveys what you're trying to say, and it gets to the point. So make sure that you do not use paragraphs. Okay, alright, so my next tip is to make it sound better than it was. And by saying that, I mean make sure that your diction is on point. Okay, so the way you word different things, make sure it just sounds good. Okay, because I think the difference between a really good resume and a bad ratchet resume is just how you put the words together, your diction. Because I can write the very same resume as you and it would sound completely different. And I think they would choose one person over the other just based on how their resume sounds, how they put their words together and everything. For example, instead of calling yourself a garbage man, I would say sanitation engineer. And if you want to take it up a notch, I would say waste management professional. Okay, so just make your title sound better. Another example is, instead of calling yourself a janitor, you can call yourself an environmental services worker. To me, that sounds more professional. And you know, a lot of us don't start off having fancy jobs and everything, so you just want to make sure that, you know, it just sounds like you did important things at your job, even if it's not that important. Okay, so just always make it sound better than it was. Spice it up a little bit. All right, so the next tip is to make sure that you're using the correct font. Throughout the resume, you can change fonts depending on which area of the resume you're working on. So for example, your name should be the biggest font. So you're the focal point of the resume, so you got to make sure that your name is like the biggest thing on there. As far as the categories go, they can be a little bit bigger just to have some separation, but you want to make sure that you're not making the other things on the resume like bigger than it needs to be. You know, you can make everything else like a 12-point font, and maybe like the categories a 14-point font, and then your name could be like I don't know, 15. Just make it the biggest thing, but not too big. And that can be a little bit confusing, so I am going to have examples, and if you want to go on my website, I'll have a little bit more details on that topic. My next tip is to make sure that you're catering your resume to the position that you're applying for. And by that, I mean, if you're applying to a job at a restaurant, it's going to be different than if you're applying to a job at the hospital. So if you're applying to a restaurant position, you're going to want to make sure you convey on there that, you know how to cook, you're good at cleaning, you're great with customers, you've been a cashier in the past, like all those duties that you would do as a person that would work at a restaurant. You want to make sure you put that on your resume. Now, if you work at the hospital, on the other hand, you want to make sure that you let them know you're great with patient care, your bedside manners are impeccable. You are, I already said, great with patients. You're very a patient person, and all these skills that you would need for a hospital position. So just make sure you're catering your resume to the job that you're applying for. So my last tip is to make sure that your resume is structured properly. Okay, so make sure that you have your bullet points, and then make sure it's indented properly. Okay, so you don't want everything just aligned to the left or everything aligned in the center. You want structure to your resume, because sometimes when the structure is off balance, it makes it look just very sloppy. Okay, so just make sure that you use that template. That's going to be like a big help for you. And also I'm going to show you examples of ratchet looking resumes and really good resumes in my next video. Okay, so make sure you stay tuned for part 2, and I'll definitely give you some examples, because I'm like a visual learner, so I'll definitely be providing examples. Alright guys, so that's the end of the video. Those are just some tips on how to spice up your resume so that you can get that hospital job. Okay, I want you to have a winning resume, and those tips are some tips that I've used over the years that's helped me make my resume phenomenal. Okay, so we're leaving ratchet in 2018, right? We're gonna get callbacks. We're gonna make sure our resumes are on point, make sure we work on our interview skills, and we will get that job. Okay, I will look over 3 people's resume by next week. So the first 3 comments, I will look over your resume, and I will see you guys on the next video. Bye.
Every single day